I am Janae Emily Utley, Holistic Lifestyle Maven and Possibility Trainer, and this is the Accomplished Woman 7-Day Completion Program. So if you are watching this, it means that you have made it to day 7. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you through all the laughter, the joy, the happiness, the sadness, the frustration, the friction, the tears. We have made it to this point. And just like every single thing in this course was planned and was intentional, one thing that also has to be planned and also has to be intentional is finessing the finish, the way that you complete something, the way that you round it off. Now, if you don't know this about me, I ran track in college and I did a lot of things. And I ended my collegiate career as a 400-meter hurdler. Now, there were so many races that it was not pretty coming across the finish line. Back all twisted up, neck all twisted up, fingers all locked up, just, chugging away trying to get to the finish line. So what I'm saying here is you don't necessarily have to feel full or feel great or feel excited, but you have to finesse the finish. Meaning you have to get to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm ending this chapter. I'm closing this chapter. I'm taking some time to step away. And I'm going to come back refreshed and I'm going to dig in. Now, when I was going through this process, this is one of the last things that God kind of had to show me that I was struggling with, that I wasn't effectively doing, and that I was kind of hindering my growth. I was hindering my progress because I wasn't finessing the finish. So what would happen would be that I would do something, create a program, create a project, and as soon as I finished it, I would start something else, and I would start something else, and I would start something else, and I would start something else. Or as soon as in the fitness world, as soon as I finished one race, I would sign up for another race and train for that race. I would try and sign up for another show and train for that show. I would just keep, like, everything was continual. There wasn't adequate enough times where I stopped and where I paused. And it led to a certain level of burnout. And sometimes when you are overworked and you are consistently moving and you're not giving yourself time to finesse the finish, that alone is stressful. You might not realize it's stressful, or you might not realize that might be contributing to your confusion, but it's a part of it. It's absolutely a part of the game, because resting and recovery is so special. The Bible even tells us that God gives us sleep, and sleep is absolutely a form of rest. He gives us sleep as a gift because our bodies and our brains need time to shut down, to shut off, and to recover. Now, one of the things that I have to highlight, because it is so important, and we don't do this enough, I don't do this enough, so I know you're probably not doing this enough, is I don't record my victories, right? So in class, one of the previous classes, I talked about forming and formulating a new mental process of how you see yourself and the things that have happened in your life and how you form thoughts and ideas around them. Now, one thing that I told you to do is I told you to highlight the things that did go right, to highlight the things that were working efficiently. This is another spot at the finish, when you finesse the finish, where you record your victory, right? Now, I have to note that when I say finesse the finish, it doesn't always mean that it's the big finish, right? Because a few classes ago that I told you that you had to break your big goal down into these smaller, more attainable goals that add up and it eventually gets you to the big goal. So each step along the way, as you are conquering those mini plans inside of the big plan, you need to stop and you need to finesse it, right? And that is a point where you write and record your victories. You write and record the awesome things that are going on, the awesome things that have happened. Because if you don't, we tend to forget the good things that have happened. We tend to forget the ways in which God has showed up, the ways in which God has helped us out. So it is important to record, and recording at the finesse stage, at the finish stage, is a must, because every time you come up with a thought, or a thought pops in your head, or an emotion comes up, and it's like, oh my God, I feel like this stress is coming back. I feel like this confusion is coming back. I feel like this inadequate feeling is coming back. You could be like, oh, wait a minute. Let me go back to my finish sheet. Let me go back to the last time I finessed a finish, and let me look at the things that I did and that I did very well. And it helps you to continue to keep those victories in front of your face, so you can always come to a point where you're highlighting and you're reforming and you're formulating ideas and opinions about yourself around the good things and not the bad things. So when you're finessing the finish, obviously, like I just said, you're going to record your mini victories, but you're also going to give yourself some time to refresh. And that refresh is going to look different from person to person, but what that refresh looks like to you is what lends itself to your personality. Me, when I complete a goal, or when I complete a mini part of my plan, I like to do something that makes me happy. And I like to treat myself to a sushi dinner. I like to go to a matinee by myself. I like to go on Groupon and find a massage, an affordable massage. I like to go on Groupon and find a affordable, like, spa situation or pedicure situation. And whatever that looks like for you, you need to find some time to refresh. And for me, when I finesse the finish, what that looks like time-wise is different from project to project, just depending on how involved I was and how much it required of me. Sometimes that refreshment is a day. Sometimes that refreshment is a week. Sometimes that refreshment is 2 weeks. And one thing that I had to learn about myself and about my personality, kind of going back to one of the previous classes about giving myself permission, I used to feel really weird and unworthy, because I would get to the point where I would stop and I would finesse the finish and I would refresh myself, and I would dive back into another project. And let's say the next project that I was working on took me a couple days to do, and I would feel like I would need another break. And I would be like, Janae, it's crazy that you feel like you need to break again. Like, you don't deserve another break. You should be okay. It's people out here working 9 to 5s, and they only get X amount of vacation days a year if they working, a awesome job. It's some people out here that really don't even get vacation days like that. So you're being a bit ridiculous, feeling like you have to rest again. And I kind of sat and I sat with that, and I talked to God about that. And God was like, Janae, I didn't make you like anybody else. I didn't make anybody like anybody else. If you feel that you need additional rest and your rest looks different, that's fine. If you stood in your own personal power and told yourself that it's okay for me to take this leap and to be a full-time entrepreneur, you took all of the work, all of the stress, all of the hard trials that came along with it, and you get to reap the rewards of that. And your rewards might be, okay, you work on a project, you rest for a week, you work on another project that might take you all of 2 days, and you rest again for a week. And if that's you, and if that's what you feel, it's okay. And just having that conversation with God really helped me out so much, and it really helped me to see myself as an individual, and even to stop comparing in that way. Like, they didn't need this much rest, or they didn't finesse the finish like this. What makes me think that I'm worthy? What makes me think that I deserve this? And God was like, no, no, no. You are not them and they are not you. What you require, the rest that you require for what you are doing, for the purpose that I put you on this earth for, might be different from the next person. You might be in a season now where you need that rest every time. You need an extended rest every time you finish a project. But the next season, you might only need 7 hours just to stop, to eat dinner, to rest or whatever, and to hop straight back in. But he was like, you basically have to respect the season that you're in, and you have to respect just where you are and how you feel you need to recover for the season that you are in without comparing. So that's the same that I'm going to give to you. Another gift of permission that I'm going to give to you while you are finessing your finish is that you don't have to prescribe to the next person's rest and refreshed. You have to look within and determine what lends itself to you and lends itself to your personality. But you have to, the goal is still the same. You have to stop, you have to record, and you have to refresh. Now, while you are refreshing, do not limit yourself on what that should look like. Maybe it's a staycation with just you. Maybe you go and rent a hotel room in an upscale place down the street. Maybe you go to another state and rent a hotel room. Maybe you go for a massage. Maybe you go for a manicure. Maybe you go for a pedicure. Maybe you go and get your hair done. Maybe you go treat your girlfriend to lunch. Maybe you treat your husband to lunch. Maybe it's a date night date. Maybe you just go and purchase you some tea and go sit somewhere in a coffee shop and sip some tea. Like, whatever that looks like to you, don't limit yourself on how that refreshment needs to look. Okay, you know who you are and you know what you like. So do something in your wheelhouse that you really enjoy doing, that it's just going to allow you to sit and to breathe and to just feel really good, and it'll help you reflect on the accomplishments that you have just come out of. Again, you don't have to finish pretty. You might be like me, back all crooked, neck all crooked, fingers all crooked, just, racing for that finish line. But as long as you get past that finish line, it's something to still be celebrated. Now, one last thing that I wanted to share with you during our last class together is that you've got to be tuned in to yourself and to God. You have to petition God and ask him to help you realize, God, what is adequate rest and refreshment for me in this season? Because one trick that I fell into in this whole process was, it was a certain point where God was like, okay, Janae, it's time to get back moving. And I didn't get back moving. And by the time that I did get back moving, it was so much harder for me to start back up. There is a fine line and there is a fine window of time where if you stop, it's exponentially harder to start back up. It's a level of rest, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Again, you're going to have to petition God and ask him to reveal this to you. But after that point, you get in an area where, oh my God, like starting up feels like it's so much harder, and you have to fight against all of those spirits and all of that overwhelm again of, oh my God, can I do this again? Can I duplicate this again? Can I start back up again? Do I have the strength to endure this again? And with all of that, it becomes a little harder, exponentially harder, to get back on the train. So petition God and ask God, what does that time frame look like for you in the season that you're in, so you won't get in a position where you allow yourself to rest so much that you get outside of that flow and that momentum that you are in, so it won't be so hard for you to jump back on the train. Go ahead, dig in your workbook, look at some examples of how to refresh yourself, go ahead and record in your Finesse to Finish log the things and the victories that you have experienced and are experiencing as you walk through this course. And remember, finessing the finished is just as important as, your finances, knowing your number, formulating new opinions and new thoughts about yourself, giving yourself permission to be great, giving yourself permission to walk in your power, learning your flow, learning your strengths, learning the things that you need to do that's going to lend itself to growing you and propelling you with the personality that God has given you. Like every single class that you have went through, that you have worked through, are all important, and the way that you finish is just as important. So I do not want you to overlook this, and I do not want you to take this for just for play. Like, take this super serious. Give yourself the time that you need to stop and to reflect and to refresh. So we have made it. We have made it. And I am so excited. If you haven't already, do not forget to find me in the community and reach out to me online. I am all over the place at the same exact handle on every single social media site, The Fitness Gym. I pray that you really got something out of this. I pray that you really take all of these classes serious and you walk through all of the steps and do all the homework and read the workbook and say the prayers in the workbook as many times as you need to, and watch each and every video as many times as you need to. Hop over in the community if you have any questions. I would love to communicate with you. I would love to engage with you, and I would love to answer those questions that you have. So thank you so much for investing in yourself. Thank you so much for showing up and showing out and participating in this. And the last prayer that I'm going to leave you with is just a prayer of thanks, because prayer is powerful, but thanksgiving is oh so powerful, because it puts you in a place, in a position of just thanksgiving. And anytime you give God thanks, it's like his ears perk up and he's like, oh, that's my daughter speaking to me. Oh, how I love her. Oh, how I appreciate the thanks that she is giving me. And it just puts you in a really, really good space mentally and physically and just heart-wise. And so pray that prayer as many times as you need to. So again, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for rocking out with me. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you of dealing with the stuff that you need to deal with, dealing with the junk that comes up when you work through a program like this. I love you, and I will see you in the community.